All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. By the way, a quick reminder, the show is moving August 12th, 9 a.m. to noon. Michael Avenatti joining us in studio today, and he'll be joining us on August 12th as well. I want to mention this real quickly. If you are anywhere in the area of South Fort Apache Road and Jerry Tarkanian Way, it is all shut down. Metro Police are investigating a barricade situation at the 9200 block of West Diablo. Apparently, there's a man that has barricaded himself in an apartment with a bunch of weapons. So this is a very dangerous situation. It is breaking news. We will continue to follow it throughout the hour if I have any more information. So as I mentioned, Michael Avenatti in studio, and we are very proud to have in the studio with us right now. He's a friend of the show, Danny Tarkanian. Danny, it doesn't seem like many Republicans are willing to join Michael Avenatti in studio, but you have, and I appreciate that and I respect that. Thank you so much for being here.
I always enjoy being on your show.
I appreciate that. And your wife comes on as well, and she's welcome back anytime. I want to start by talking about this because I know you have your opinions when it comes to Nike and shoe deals and that sort of thing. So just give me a perspective from your side.
It's not my opinion. I mean, I understand how college basketball's worked. I've been around it my whole life, and it's not surprising to see what's happened and to hear what Michael's a legend of from Nike and everything, because the people involved in the game, they know all the stuff that's going on. Maybe not to the specifics that were reported in the trials that were coming out, but they know what's going on. Look, in the early 60s, 70s, early 80s, you had boosters from big programs that were paying big stars to come to the schools. Late 80s, early 90s, the shoe companies started giving a lot of money to AAU coaches, other people that were close with the players. And what happened is, those coaches, those AAU coaches, or street agents, as you'd call them, they would direct players to certain colleges, and they would get paid, whether they got paid directly from the school, from one of the coaches or boosters from the coach, or whether they got paid from an agent that wanted to make sure they signed with an agent. Everybody knows this was going on. Those shoe companies were given thousands of dollars in free merchandise to these kids to get them to want to go to the schools that had their merchandise and ultimately signed with them, but they were good enough to in the NBA.
Right.
So now you see they just took it a step closer. Now you have the assistant coaches, I guess, from what I'm hearing in the lawsuits, are directly involved in facilitating these type of transactions. But they were going on late 80s, early 90s.
Michael, does that surprise you to hear Danny say that?
No, I'm not surprised at all. And look, Danny's been around the game for decades, and so if anybody would know about it, Danny, Danny would know about it.
Sure.
I don't know how Danny feels about it, but I've said this before. I think players should be paid. I think that there should be an amount of money that these colleges can pay players. It should be under an organized, controlled system. It should be a reasonable sum of money. It should be done out in the open. But we can't have a system where you have the shoe companies determining where the best players or the greatest players go to college and basically rigging it almost like in a draft for college. I mean, we can't have that. We shouldn't have it.
Mm-hmm. Well, the NCAA was supposed to create a level playing field and not allow these things to happen, and really they just cover up all these things that go on. They cover up for the big programs and stuff. My father had advocated in his entire career that players should get a stipend based upon what it would cost to have the same type of lifestyle other college kids have when they go attend the school. Right now, at least when I was going to college, I think they made some minor adjustments. A scholarship check was based upon room, board, books, and tuition, which is basically living in a dorm, getting meals at the dormitory, cafeteria, and you have to live off of that. They didn't get laundry money. They didn't get money to buy school supplies. They didn't get money to go out on a date. They didn't get money to join a fraternity or anything else. And all these kids that are I shouldn't say all, vast majority of these kids are poor inner city kids that don't have any money and they can't pay for these things. Yeah. So they end up having to either break rules and get money from somewhere else or live as an inferior student athlete, and that's not right. Yeah. And that's why you see so many small of those rules get broken. The problem I have, Mike, is when schools come in, or in these instances, these shoe companies come in with big, large payments that virtually only the real wealthy schools that have the ties to these shoe companies can get these kids. And then you just screw up the whole game. You take away the chances of a Long Beach State being able to compete with UCLA like my dad or UNLV when they were first started.
You're creating an uneven playing field.
No doubt. Now, I'm sure
you're creating a situation where basically the big shoe companies determine which players or which programs succeed and which fail.
And look what happened. Zion Williamson just signed with the Jumpman, who is owned by who was owned
A
by
lot of
Nike.
money.
Is that a shock?
No, not a shock at all. We shouldn't be shocked at that at all, and I'm sure
Yeah,
there's
Duke is a Nike school.
Absolutely. Listen, we all agree in this studio when it comes to this, but let's switch topics here real quick. We might disagree on some of this stuff. So, Danny, we've been talking a lot about this chant, right? Send her back at this Donald Trump rally. Yes, I do think it's a racist chant, and I am not defending Omar at all. And I've never defended her when it comes to some of the anti-Semitic comments she's made. But I think that chant is completely unacceptable. I think the 13 seconds that Donald Trump stood up there on that stage and did nothing, showed no leadership qualities at all. And I think it was a disgrace to the country that there were people out there at his rally that were chanting that. What do you say?
You're about half right, which is about the best I'm going to agree with you. I'm sure the rest of the night. It wasn't an appropriate chant, and it shouldn't have been done. I think it's one of the worst things you can say to us, people that come here from an immigrant family, particularly ones that were close to it. Like if they had said that to me, second-generation Armenian, send them back, Armenia, it would be very, very offensive. Is it racist? No, it's not racist. That's ridiculous. And that the fact that you guys keep using the racist term, you lose any effect you have on it anymore. You can still say something wrong without it having to be racist.
Michael, go ahead, respond to that.
Well, I don't know how you could not classify what happened as racist. Look, we are a country of immigrants. Your ancestors, Armenian, my ancestors, Italian. The fact of the matter is we're almost all immigrants, one way, shape, or form. Okay, we have been a beacon of light since really the beginning for the rest of the world, and that's the fabric of this nation. And to have the President of the United States stand on a stage in silence for 13 seconds as people that are there to cheer him on chant, "Send her back," it's outrageous. I mean, this is a man who is supposed to be in a position of leadership where people are supposed to be looking up to him from all walks of life, whether they're Republican or Democrat. The night of the election in 2016, I was disappointed, because he had won, and I was very concerned for the country. But when I went to sleep that night, I'll never forget this, I was hoping that the rhetoric would be toned down and that he would elevate himself to the office of the presidency, that his ego would take a back seat. I mean, he's just won the highest office in the land,
right?
Okay, the most powerful, or one of the most powerful men in the world. You would think that he could, take a breath and maybe put a lot of the nonsense that he engages in into the back seat. And I was hoping for that. I thought, or I had hoped, that the office would change the man. That has not happened. What has happened is just the opposite, that the man has attempted to change the office, has demeaned the presidency, and it's a constant campaign. Everything is a campaign every day of this guy's life. He has never really ascended to the office of the presidency. And to have him on that stage and to not interrupt that crowd and say, hey, stop, that's not appropriate, that's leadership. And he doesn't show any of it. And the reason why he doesn't show any of it is because a fundamental part of his success is those feelings that serve as the foundation of that chant.
Okay, look, there's several things we'd like to address, and we'll address them at in order. First of all, with respect to the send them back statement and what he was trying to get at, it was not racist. He was talking about 4 Congress people that made horrible statements about Americans, our American lifestyle, and about white people. I just heard driving over here today, Omar had told Al Jazeera that they should do racial profiling of white men because they're the worst and so forth. Look at what Trump was saying, and this is a problem he has. He says things that so many of us agree with, but he says it in a way that it causes people to be offended by it, and that's what he did here. Listen, nobody agrees with those. I shouldn't say that. Vast few people in America agree with the statements those 4 Congress people are saying about America, about our lifestyle, and about the racist, anti-Semitic stuff that they're saying daily. So Trump's saying they're anti-American, and if they don't like America, they should go back to their countries and try to do something different there. Now, if he would have worded it the right way, there wouldn't be a controversy. But because he words it the way he does, because he talks off the cuff, he doesn't filter what he's going to say. He puts himself into a bind, and so now you allow people to say, okay, now he's racist, this and that, and so forth. But it is the reason of what he was saying, the vast majority of people agree with it, and I think that's why you saw his poll numbers go up. Second of all, when you're talking about his personality and you hope he changed and this and that, look, you come from a different side. You liked Obama, and you liked the things that he said, and maybe others. I didn't. I think what he did when he said when he went after the professors from, was it Harvard, that the guy, when they went into the home and he defended the professors over the police officers, when he said Trayvon Martin's son, he could have been like my son, even though Trayvon Martin bashed the guy's head into the cement numerous times. Michael Brown, he took the side of that.
I don't want to interrupt, but isn't that whataboutism, what you're doing, though?
No, what I'm saying is this is the way it is and the way our society's gone, and I think it's going to be the way it continues because there's no turning back now. We went from having great diplomatic people, Ronald Reagan. I even think Bill Clinton was very diplomatic. Mm-hmm. I liked Bill Clinton as a person. I even liked a lot of what he did. George Bush, he tried to be, but I don't think he was strong enough. It got very divisive under the Obama years. You ran two people against him on the Republican side that were both gentlemen, honorable, nice, and they got their butts kicked because many people think, at least on the Republican side, that they allowed the Democrats to attack them and they didn't do anything about it. Romney's dog on the roof and all when he was driving and all that stuff. So now you got a guy that comes in and he's a complete opposite. In fact, he's gone overboard and he says the rudest, the hardest, the meanest things. But he comes right back after the Democrats when they attack him. So the Democrats hate it worse. But he's been successful doing it.
All right, let's let Michael respond.
Okay, and there's a segment of people on the Republican side that really like that.
Mm-hmm. Michael, go ahead.
Look, I don't think that Donald Trump is elected president, but for the fact that Steve Bannon, it wasn't Donald Trump, it was Steve Bannon and some of the others around him, figured out that there was this undercurrent that was just below the surface, a lot of it because Obama had been elected, an undercurrent of racism. And they exploited that in 2016, and I think they're looking to exploit that in 2020. You know, as it relates to Barack Obama, I thought Barack Obama actually wasn't as strong a president as he otherwise could have been because he was so concerned about appearing to be like the angry black president. And he really was rather reserved in many, many ways. And I firmly believe that. But there is this undercurrent of racism in America. It is alive and well, and I think what you're seeing right now are the seeds being planted, being fertilized, being cultivated for 2020 to seize on this racism and to generate a lot of enthusiasm for Donald Trump as a result of it. You know, when we talk about send them back, and we talk about sending these congresswomen back. I mean, what, three of the four were born in the United States? I mean, where are we going to send them back to?
Cortez born in New York.
I mean, we're going to send her back to New York. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me. But look, strategically, it's sick in my view, but it's brilliant in some ways because what Donald Trump and those around him are trying to do is they're trying to make the face of the Democratic Party these four women. They are trying to define, which is ridiculous.
Yeah. First-year congresswomen.
Well, he's isolating, which is what he does very, very well.
They do not speak for the Democratic Party.
No, they do not. But look, he wants them to be seen as the Democratic Party. He wants to run against those four candidates in 2020 as opposed to whoever the nominee is.
Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned the undercurrent of racism. Is it possible that Caucasian males, Caucasian women in those states, those Rust Belt states, if you will, felt that they were being underserviced and discriminated against themselves? And is that racism?
No, I just think it's silly to say that Trump started this racism debate in politics, and that's what got him elected, or Bannon, as you say. It started with Obama and identity politics, and it started before Obama, but they made it an arts form where they made everything identity politics, whether it's Asians, whether it's Hispanics, women, LGBT people, everything is identity politics, and that's what they play to. And that's why Trump got elected. People are sick and tired of it, and I believe the hand's been way overplayed. If anybody should get beat in an election, it probably should be Donald Trump with the numbers he has. But them continuing to focus on a worn-out statement of racism is turn Americans off. That's why you see his poll numbers go up after all these things. People aren't buying these ridiculous allegations again.
Michael, what do you say to that?
Look, here's my theory. If you look at the power base in America, there's a set amount of power in America. If you took a snapshot in 1960 as to who had that power, it was white males. Then you have the Civil Rights Act of the 60s, right, thankfully, and a small piece of that power base is quote taken, close quote, again thankfully, from white males, and it's given to African Americans. Then you have more and more women becoming stronger in the workforce, more powerful, etc. All of a sudden, another slice of that is provided to them, again, thankfully. Then you have an influx of various immigrants that are coming over to America and assimilating and contributing. And now you have another slice of this pie, if you will, the power pie that's given to them. And so what Bannon and the people around Trump so brilliantly identified, okay, I don't agree with it, but strategically it was brilliant. What they identified when we come around to 2016 is that you've got all of these Caucasian males predominantly, and they still have 55 or 60% of the power in America, make no mistake about it, but they believe that all of a sudden there's all these threats and they've lost all this ground and they're scared to death about it. And they tapped into that. And that's really what Make America Great Again is all about. Because they couldn't come out and say, let's make America white and male again. But that is what they tapped into successfully, and they're trying to go back to the exact same thing in 2020 and trying to prey on those fears.
I want to just make a quick point here. And Danny, I know you're going to disagree with me on this one, and that's fine. That's what we're here to do, talk about these issues. If it was a white woman or a white man, would Donald Trump have said, go back to your country?
Of course, and that's so ridiculous. No, listen.
What do you mean, of course?
Of course he would have, because that's what he was talking about.
You agree with that, Michael?
Hey, listen.
No, not at all.
Let me have my chance to respond now, okay? First, of course he would. He would say it about whoever was bad-mouthed in America. The Make America Great slogan is what so many people in this country. First of all, I don't understand why I'm not a minority. Why aren't Armenians minority? Nobody's been discriminated more than Armenians. So, but they don't count me as a minority. But I, as an American, want to love the concept of what American is, the personal freedoms, the liberty, the opportunities to be able to sit here, talk about these things, and do what we're doing here in our country. America is the greatest country in the world. People are sick and tired of having people like those four girls, those four congresswomen get on national voices out there and badmouth America. And that's why Trump resonated with all those people. And let me I want to say one thing about when Michael was talking about how it's changed, and I agree with them. There were more concentrated power with the white males, and then females earlier. Now it's been dissipating some. It's wonderful it is, because the people that work the hardest, the people that take the educated risks, the good risks that pay off and educated and work the hardest should get rewarded. That's what our country's about. It's not about a woman's group all of a sudden takes a pie, or African Americans all of a sudden take a pie. The Asians all of a sudden are taking a pie. This is what destroys our country. We are the United States of America. We're not African Americans, Armenian Americans, late women, Asian Americans. That divides the country. I'm so happy we finally have a president in office who's trying to bring the country together to defend the country and love the country.
Okay, I'm going to let Michael respond to that, because I don't think.
Look,
Yeah,
I don't know how you can possibly say that this president is a unifier of the United States of America and its people. I mean, this president has done more to turn back race relations and the unity of this country. He's done more to destroy that. I can't think of any president, certainly not in my lifetime, that's even approached anything close to what Donald Trump has done. I'm very concerned about this country and how we're being torn apart, really at a very base level. I'm very concerned about what the future holds. I'm more concerned than I've ever been concerned in my life, frankly, about the fact that we could very easily have a race riot in this country if this rhetoric continues, these rallies, and if we have somebody as the leader of our nation that is advocating for this in many ways. Look, where this thing ends, I don't know where it ends, but it could be a very, very ugly situation, and I'm deeply, deeply concerned about it. Donald Trump is supposed to be the president of the United States for everyone. He's not supposed to be singling out groups. This whole idea about AOC bashing America and some of these other congressmen bashing America, separate and apart from Omar, we've talked about that. I'm not going to defend her comments on the radio. I don't agree with them. Okay, that's one thing.
You think she should be in office?
But when you talk, well, she was elected, so she should be in office. Okay, would I have voted for her? No, I probably would not have voted for her. But look, she was elected. So does she belong in office? Yes, because she was elected. All right. but I would not have voted for it. But as it relates to the others, I mean, I don't think that you can compare Omar's comments with the comments of AOC in any stretch of the imagination.
I agree with that.
Okay.
And go ahead, Dan.
So what brings a country together is when people are prospering, they're realizing the American dream, and they're all moving forward. You have the lowest unemployment rate in the history of recorded time for African Americans, for women. You have highest home ownership for African Americans. You have the highest wage increase in the last 10 years. You have more women in President Trump's administration than any in the past 3 administrations, at least.
How about people of color in his administration? How's he doing there?
Again, he's taking the best people and he puts them in there.
You really think he's taking the best people with all the people?
Listen, I'm not going to debate with you about whether you like somebody in his administration or not. What I pointed to you is Michael had said that Trump has divided this country and it doesn't see how African Americans or any other minority could like him, because that's the talking points that Democrats need to have to beat a president who has a kind of success he's had primarily in the economy. And I'm saying, if you want to talk about what brings a country together and what is jobs, it's home ownership, it's being able to be proud of being American again. All these things Donald Trump has done, he's done to bring all Americans together.
Michael, unemployment is down. The economy is doing well.
Home ownership.
So I will. What he said about hiring the best people, I completely disagree with.
And the stock market is doing unbelievably well.
So those are some fair things, even though I disagree about hiring the best people, because clearly he hasn't. But he does make some fair points about the economy and black unemployment. I just want to let Michael a chance to respond.
And this is one of the reasons why I've said that if you look at the history of the United States, there's never been an incumbent president who's run for re-election with an economy, a good economy, who has not been reelected. Of course, we've never had a president like Donald Trump, and that's one of the reasons why I think defeating him in 2020, it's not impossible, but I do think it's going to be more difficult than a lot of people believe. And look, here's the other thing. I never said that no minority could like Donald Trump or vote for Donald Trump. I never said that. What I did say, though, I stand behind, is that I think that this man is a divider of the nation. He's a divider of people. He wants to create us versus them, send them back, keep us here. We're the ones that should stay. They should go. And he does that for no reason other than to fit his own political purpose and to rally his base and be reelected. And that's dangerous.
JD, go ahead.
Question for both of you. Do you believe that Barack Obama and his presidency, which Black Lives Matters, the Trayvon Martin situation, a lot of episodes like that, do you believe that he was good for racial relations?
Michael, go ahead, and then we'll let Danny answer that. Go ahead, Michael.
I don't think he was bad for racial relations. I mean, I thought he could have weighed in much more strongly on a whole host of issues that had degrees of racism in them during his presidency. And again, I think that he largely avoided that because he did not want to be seen, as the angry black president. And so I thought he showed pretty good restraint in that regard. But here's the other thing that I will say. If Barack Obama had not been elected, I don't think Donald Trump would have been elected.
And
okay?
I agree with you.
I think Donald Trump was able to tap into a lot of the animosity, fears, anger, which did not come from a good place, that among many, that resulted from Barack Obama's 2 terms.
I agree completely with you. That may be the only time on the show. But the reason why President Trump was able to tap into those emotions was because that's what President Obama created through his presidency. I completely disagree when you say he didn't make race. He made race relations horrible, maybe the worst since the 60s.
Why? Because he was elected?
No, because he stands up for people like Trayvon Martin, who banged a Hispanic guy's head in the ground over and over again and said it could have been my son could have been like that. He defended, and his DOJ defended a guy like Michael Brown, who went into police cars window, grabbed the police officer and tried to shoot him. And instead, we have all these people protesting and saying the police officer did something wrong. Ran that guy out of his job. He had death threats all over the place. You can go on and on and on. Look, if they concentrate on what the real police brutality is, you get a lot better sentiment. Just like if you concentrate on what real racism is, you get a lot more sentiment. The guy who was strangleholded Gardner in New York was one of the worst things I've ever seen. He was crying out for help, saying he couldn't breathe.
That was disgusting.
That should
have been
all
prosecuted.
the focus should have been on that and not on a guy like Michael Brown.
I agree with you on that, and I want to give Michael a chance to respond to that. But I do agree with what you just said, especially when it came to Trayvon Martin and some other issues. What we're going to do is we're going to take a break. We've got Michael Avenatti in studio. We've got Danny Tarkanian, who has agreed to come in the ring with Michael, and we're getting to it across from J.D. Sharp on Brian Shapiro. What we're going to do is we're going to open up the phone lines, too. We're going to take some calls in the next segment. Your chance to chime in on this one at 257-5396. Again, the number to call, 702-257-5396. 5396. While I agree with what Danny just said, you could also make the argument, good people on both sides in Charlottesville. That is an
I'd love
example.
to talk about that one.
Let's
again.
talk about that.
You keep misstating over and over
Well,
again.
I'm going to talk about
there
that.
You go. Fake news. Add it again.
It's not fake news.
Yes.
I'm going to talk about that, and I'm also going to talk about going after a POW in John McCain. We're going to talk about that as well, reasons why I do believe he is not bringing everybody together. We'll let you respond to that, Danny. Michael Avenatti, Danny Tarkanian in studio. Again, the number to call, 257-5396. We will take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to The Vegas Take. All right, welcome back. It is The Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. A quick reminder, we are very excited to announce that the show is going to be moving 9 a.m. to noon starting August 12th. And Michael Avenatti joins us in studio today. You're also nice enough to be joining us in studio August 12th, the first show we start 9 a.m. to noon. We also have Danny Tarkanian in studio, who has agreed to get in the ring with Michael Avenatti. This has been a really, really good discussion, and I certainly want to continue it, but I do want to take a few phone calls at 257-5396. Again, that number to call, 257-5396. Your chance right now to get on with Michael Avenatti and Danny Tarkanian. Let's start off with Brian. Brian, thanks for calling in. What's on your mind?
Hey, gentlemen. I just want to go over some of the things that Danny said, and I think he's right on target, particularly when it comes to the chance. We're talking about 13 seconds in an hour and 44-minute rally. I've been to 2 Trump rallies. I've been there. It's about people having fun. I've seen every race, ethnicity, from the bottom of the social and economic ladder to the top. The last rally I was at, I sat next to 2 iron workers from the local iron workers union. To my left was a Hispanic family. In front of me were some teenagers. Across the aisle was a lady with diamonds all over her wrists and neck, and everything in between. They're there to have fun and to stand up and cheer and shout.
All right.
Donald Trump.
Brian, do you have a photographic memory?
Okay.
I feel like you do.
He's the disruptor. That's why people like him.
All right, Brian, hang on. Brian, hang on. Stay on the line. I want to give Michael Avenatti. Normally, I would respond to that. Let's let Michael respond to that. Go ahead, Michael.
Well, look, when you were at those rallies, you cannot state that they were not predominantly white. I mean, look, let's be honest about it. They were predominantly white, and there's nothing fun about standing at a rally and having people chant, send them back, when you're talking about other Americans. And you say it's only 13 seconds. 13 seconds in that context is an eternity. If we stop talking right now for 13 seconds on this radio show, that would illustrate how long 13 seconds really is. What was most disturbing to me about what I witnessed down in North Carolina was the young 12 or 13-year-old girl.
Yes, the girl standing behind.
Over his left shoulder, our right, who was looking around, didn't really know what to do, and then began chanting with the crowd. That was very, very disturbing to me.
Brian, go ahead.
Well, I disagree with you. I've been at the rally, and there is not predominantly white. It's a little bit of everything. You need to go and experience it. And like I said, it's from every economic and social structure that you can imagine is there. I was surprised.
All right.
I really was. Now, about what one of my heroes is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And when he said that I hope that my children will one day not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. What these 4 women are being judged on is the content of their character or lack thereof, and their rash, outlandish statements.
All right.
I agree
that they
completely,
put out
Michael.
there. Nothing to do with their color.
All right, Brian,
Period.
I got it.
At least one
I got to
of
get
them
to
is
some other
being judged
callers, Brian. I
on that,
appreciate the call.
And that's Ilhan Omar.
Let's go to Robert. Robert, you're on with Danny Tarkanian and Michael Avenatti. Go.
Good evening. First of all, welcome, Mr. Avenatti, to our city, and Mr. Tarkanian, good evening. You gentlemen were talking about racism. I think we have to start home here in Las Vegas with racism. Basically, I just want to put a little plug in. There's going to be a protest at the Las Vegas Family Court on Friday morning at July 26th at 8:30 a.m. Basically, if you reference an article that was in the Review Journal back in June of 2017, when judge orders litigant, the grandmother and her little 3-year-old girl, to go to the hairdresser and get the nappiness out of her hair. You can reference that on social media right now. There's not only racism at Las Vegas Family Court, there's public corruption and numerous other corruptions that are going on in family court. And I think we should start, as Las Vegas, I've been here for 35 years, sir. I think we should start to begin at home and then work outwardly.
Okay. Robert, all due respect, because we have some other callers on hold.
I understand.
Do you have a question you could ask Michael? Or go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Avenatti, I don't know if you're going to be in town for the next couple of days, but a person such as you and Mr. Tarkanian, it would be greatly, there would be a great amount of support if either both of you gentlemen or one of your gentlemen were there.
Okay, Robert, we appreciate that. Michael has to leave town tonight, but listen, I hope a lot of people show up to your rally, and I hope it's a success. I really do. No legitimate, normal human being in Las Vegas wants racism to occur. Let's go to Scott. Scott, what's going on? You're on with Danny Tarkanian and Michael Avenatti. Go.
Hey, Scott.
Yeah, hey, guys. Question along the lines of race with Barack and Hillary winning basically the popular vote.
Yes, go ahead.
Michael, you made a comment. I was wondering if you could maybe give some context. You told Time Magazine, you said, I think if the Democrats nominate anyone other than a white male at the top of the ticket, they're going to lose the election. I'd be willing to bet anything. I feel highly confident in that. Could you explain the context and what you meant there?
Well, I appreciate the question. That's actually not what I said. My statements were taken out of context, and Molly Ball really did a number on me in connection with that. And I've asked that the transcripts be released relating to my statements in that regard in their entirety. I've demanded that Time do that repeatedly. They've refused to do it for some unknown reason as to why they won't put my comments into context, because I want people to see everything that I said on the topic. I was consistent last year when I was traveling the country and speaking at a number of political events when I talked about white privilege, and that I believe that as a Caucasian male, even though I'm of Italian descent, I classify myself as a Caucasian male, that males have a higher responsibility to stand up and to talk about the need for unity, talk about the need for us to repair this country relating to racism and seek it out and exterminate it, and that white males have a particularly high responsibility in that regard to defend our brothers and sisters that don't necessarily look like us.
Michael, are you familiar with redlining?
Redlining a document?
Redlining. What happened with the banking system back in the 1960s when the banks wouldn't give loans to African-American families to buy houses?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that term, but I'm familiar with the concept.
You mentioned that you believe that Caucasian males have a higher standard. Do you think that reparations should be part of the equation at any point in the near future?
I don't. I'm not supportive of reparations.
Yeah.
Maybe some of the people that support me won't like my position on that. But
no, I'm with you.
So it is. I'm not supportive of reparations, and that does not mean to suggest that I'm insensitive to what has transpired in the past, because I'm absolutely sensitive to it.
What is your thought on that too, Danny?
I think it's. I don't know how you would begin to come up with a system that would provide reparations.
You agree?
Of course. But look, if you're going to give reparations, you should start with the Native Americans, who've probably gotten the shortest end of everything. And then the Japanese that lost everything, that were put in those internment camps. Obviously, the African Americans that had to struggle through their stuff. You can go on and on. Our country's made a lot of bad choices and bad decision making. Thank goodness so we keep improving upon it and trying to get rid of those evils.
For the record, I have given a lot of money back to some Indian casinos, so I'm sure that helped them a little bit. 257-5396. Let's go to Patty. Patty, what's going on?
Yes, I'm calling. I don't even know what the name of this show is. I got in late on this, but I cannot believe the conversations that I am hearing about white privilege and everything. I grew up in the 70s, went off to college, and I come from a family of 8 children. When I went to apply for a student loan, they didn't even list Caucasian. Back in the 70s, they listed others as the last choice. So if you weren't any of the other races, you were in an other, and you were last on the totem pole to get school
So
loans.
you're saying in the 70s you feel white people were the victims? Is that what you're trying to say? And everyone else was not?
When it came to student loans, every other one was at the head.
Okay, but that's one
getting
very
this
okay.
child
So
loan.
okay,
And there is reality, and universities across the United States have had racial quotas, and that's been a reality for a long time.
No. This wasn't racial quotas. This was the federal, when they had the federal student loan program before they finally got rid of it.
all right. Let's Patty, hang on the line. Hang on the line.
Because
What do you mean no?
They,
You want me to hang up on you?
decided
What do you
that
mean?
They couldn't afford it.
Okay,
Patty,
I said
Patty,
hang on the line because we don't want to hang up on you. We just want to let Michael respond. Go ahead,
Patty,
Michael.
this is Michael Avenatti. Thanks for calling in. Let me ask you a couple questions just real quick. Did you vote for Bill Clinton?
Did I vote for Bill Clinton? No.
Okay. Did you vote for Barack Obama?
No.
All right. Have you ever voted for a Democrat in the last 30 years?
Jimmy Carter was the last one.
All right, Jimmy Carter. You voted for him in 76, correct?
Right.
Okay. The reason why I ask is that as Brian asked, I mean, you seem to be of the belief that at least since the 70s or thereabouts that you've been somewhat disadvantaged, even though you're a Caucasian female. Is that right?
I worked my way up with my bootstraps.
Right, and you should be applauded for that. But that doesn't necessarily mean that somehow you've been disadvantaged over the last 3 to 4 decades, right?
I did what I had to do to succeed and make a life for myself.
All right,
I'm
Patty.
just saying that there's
I
so much that you guys
Okay.
are saying that all of this. What did Barack Obama ever do to try to stop the murders in Chicago, to try to get the people, the blacks in Chicago, a job?
Michael, do you want to respond to that?
What program did he ever do?
Well, when you talk about quote getting the blacks a job, I mean, I think African Americans,
phrasing.
Yeah, but very poor phrasing. I believe many African Americans have had very successful jobs and have contributed to society for decades in this country, and will hopefully continue to do so. So, as it relates to the murders in Chicago, I think that fell more fully on the local leadership in Chicago over the years, But look, I think that Barack Obama, and I've said this in the past, I thought he was a B president. I thought he did a fairly decent job. I didn't think he did a great job. I didn't think that he did that he did a terrible job. I mean, and I'm not here to defend everything that Barack Obama did, because I have, and this from past shows, I have a number of criticisms as it relates to certain things, especially as it relates to the Garland nomination.
As do I, and I know Danny does as well. I want to squeeze in a couple more quick calls, and then I want to continue the discussion with Danny and Michael. Let's go quickly to Gary. Gary, what's going on?
Yeah, hi. I just joined in. I don't know if this topic was discussed earlier, but I would like to know why the left-wing media and a lot of Democratic leadership has given this group Antifa such a free pass. Why they don't cover their terrible acts, why they're not arrested and put in jail for criminal charges. They just seem to be under the radar, and no one seems to be calling their number. I don't understand that, really.
All right, Gary, we'll let them respond. Go ahead, gentlemen.
All I see is what's on the shows, and it certainly are very, very egregious activities, and pretty cowardly too, with not wearing the mask and so forth. Look at, and this we'll get to the Charlottesville comments in a minute, but there are bad people that are on both sides, and they should be condemned and they should be prosecuted when they do things like that.
Take one more quick phone call, and let's go to Tom. Tom, you're on with Michael Avenatti and Danny Tarkanian. Go ahead.
Hello, gentlemen. North Korea has just shot off another missile, and I'm wondering, do you think we'll get nuked before Michael goes to prison?
Oh, very funny, Tom. That's very, very funny. Very funny phone call. Why don't we continue with the conversation about Charlottesville, because I think that is a very funny, I shouldn't say funny, that is a very serious conversation. So, Michael, talk to me about the comment, and then I want Danny to respond to it. When Donald Trump says there are good people on both sides, I want you guys to get into a good discussion about this, because I certainly thought it was a horrible thing for him to say.
Well, I thought it was completely irresponsible at the time. I still think it was completely irresponsible. I don't think there's any way to explain it away. We see that with this president time and time again. He makes statements and then he tries to, the people close around him or others call him and basically say, "What the hell are you doing?" And this was a mistake. And then he tries to backtrack it, but it's a half-ass backtrack because he really, frankly, believes it and he doesn't want to retract the statement. And look, it was atrocious at the time. I mean, when an incident like that happens, the last thing in the world you should be doing is making a statement like that. He should have come out immediately, and when I say immediately, I mean immediately, and condemned it because it was outrageous what happened down there. And it should have never happened under any stretch of the imagination. And again, it's a question of leadership. You don't take an opportunity like that to rally the base. It's not a political opportunity.
Danny?
I think when you say you have bad people on both sides, you're probably taking a shot at your base too. Look, I think this was the greatest example of many that can be where the left-leaning media, Main Street media, many others have tried to twist what President Trump said to make him look racist. It's not even close to being true, and I will talk about that in a second. But I've been on your show 3-4 times now. We've talked about different things that I've disagreed with what President Trump has said, and I've said that his the language and the tweets that he's used, I wouldn't agree with in many occasions. This is not one of them. And I was running for the U.S. Senate at the time, and I watched this very carefully. I was on a television interview afterwards with MSNBC, and they were saying this. I watched the whole thing. It's so obvious when you put it into context. He gets into the press conference, and he condemns white supremacists, all the other people that were on the one side that had committed these acts. He said this was an atrocious act. He condemned everything about what happened there. But then he said, he went on a bunch of things, and he said there were good people on both sides and bad people on both sides, and there were good people on both sides and bad people on both sides. For example, the guy that had the torch that he blowing fire on and that he was trying to burn other people was on the other side. Was he a good guy or was he a bad guy? Probably a bad guy. So they had bad guys on one side. The person who ran over the lady and killed her, she was probably a bad guy. He was on the other side. Now, you had good people on both sides. You had some people that were protesting what they felt was a symbol of slavery and oppression, and they wanted the statues down. But then you had other people that had lived in that community that revere Robert E. Lee, and they felt it was wrong to take away their heritage. So you had good people on one side, bad people on one side, and the same as the other.
Respond to that.
Look. This is a powder keg in America right now. We're sitting on a powder keg, and it's building with each passing week. And you have the President of the United States out there striking matches, okay? And that's exactly what's going on. And he's striking matches with abandonment. And if we're not careful, this is going to become an incredibly dangerous situation, and it has the potential of destroying democracy, depending on where we go, because I think that it is more tenuous now than it has been in a very, very long time. And he is striking these matches for no reason other than it fits his political needs as it relates to his reelection chances now in 2020. And as it relates to trying to make him out to be a racist, we don't have to try to make him out to be a racist. If it swims like a duck, quacks like a duck, and walks like a duck, guess what? It's a duck. Donald Trump is a racist.
I think if the Democrats feel if they keep saying this enough times, people are going to start believing it, and if they keep twisting up things around, people are going to believe it. But I believe you're at a point now that the only people that are going to believe it are the ones that are believing it now. It's not going to be you're not going to sway anybody else. And in fact, you lose. My mother, lifelong Democrat, is fed up with the way people have been attacking Donald Trump over these type of things, including the Charlottesville statement. But I agree with you. I think we're in a powder keg, and I think there's going to be some bad things that are going to happen if things don't straighten out. I don't blame Donald Trump for it. I blame the identity politics that have been played now for quite a while, where you want to divide our country. We need to bring our country back together. We are Americans. We are not separated by race, color, sex, or any other orientation.
And you don't think Donald Trump bears any blame at all for what you just said?
I didn't say that. See, and that's what you like to do to twist things around. No,
he does.
Donald Trump is a fighter, and he doesn't filter what he says, and he goes out and he says and he fights back when he feels the need to do so. Now, some of the things, as I mentioned, I don't agree with. I don't think he should have told them to go back home. I think that was a wrong terminology, but I certainly think he should have said, hey, if they don't love America, they should leave, go to a place that they can be proud of. He doesn't have a filter where he's weighing every word like most politicians do.
So your issue is that you think that he's coming from a decent place, but he has to have a better word selection.
I think what he's trying to do is the right thing, and I think that the problem, the reason why people don't like him is the way his personality and his character. He just fights, and he says things, and he does. Listen, when I watched those first debates, and he was saying some of the things about people that I really like and care about that were on that stage with him, I'm thinking, man, he's going to get blown away. Who's going to accept this? But, people accepted it, and they wanted somebody to stand up and fight.
When you guys, both of you, this is for both of you, when you say that we're in a powder keg right now, when that powder keg explodes, are you basically insinuating that we could have a civil war in the United States of America based on race?
I don't think we're going to have a type of civil war like we had before. There's just way too much firepower. There's going to be stuff going on where people are going to step up, and it may be in spots where they're going to take action, and it's unfortunately, and I believe the other side will too. If it gets to that point, I mean, somebody's got to. So we got to change the culture of our society back where we're one. Listen, we got to unite together against the rest of the world. I'm a big nationalist. With Trump, they attack Trump on. I believe in the United States of America and love it. I think we need to take care of everybody here in the United States before we spend one penny overseas.
Mike, I got about 1 minute.
I don't think we're going to have a well. Look, I certainly hope and pray we don't have a civil war in this country because obviously it would be absolutely terrible for the democracy and the future of the United States of America. I would hate to see that. And I hope that we wake up and come to our senses before then. But do I believe that people will be taking to the streets in the not-so-distant future if we continue down this path? Absolutely. I've never seen anything like it in my lifetime. I never thought that I would have this belief, and I'm not a guy that's prone to believe things like this. But I don't think there's any way you can look at what's going on right now and come to any other conclusion.
It's a scary thought. Well, first of all, let me just say this was a good discussion. I think people need to have more discussions like this, and this is why I say more Republicans need to go on CNN, more Democrats need to go on Fox News. We need more political discourse in a respectful manner in this country.
And make it about issues.
Like good Republican women should be on MSNBC, Alex Witt, 10:30.
That's right. Your wife does a fantastic job. First of all, Danny, thank you so much for coming in and doing this.
She got to give me
a
pat on the back for promoting all the time.
She deserves it.
You did well.
Thank you, Danny. Seriously, thank you so much for coming in studio. And Michael, thank you so much for coming in studio, flying in. We really do appreciate it. Michael, we will see you August 12th, my friend.
Good to chat with you, Danny.
Yes, this was a great conversation, and we got to go. Thank you so much, everybody.
Michael and Danny.
We will catch everyone 22 hours from now tomorrow. Have a great night, everybody. Have a good one.
This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro.
Come on,